This training is put on by the DC Caucus of Rank and File Educators, known as DC Core. This is a training on your rights as a member of the WTU. My name is Laura Fuchs. I have been a member of the Washington Teachers Union since 2007. I am a social studies and US government teacher at H.D. Woodson High School in Ward 7. So the first thing is any government teacher will have you look at is the document that actually where our rights originate from. The Washington Teachers Union, our rights come from the Constitution and bylaws, which you can find on the Washington Teachers Union website. This document was created in 1981 and was updated in 2004. There have been many further attempts to update the bylaws, and currently the document is being overhauled by members of the executive board of the WTU, and we will hopefully be able to put it to a vote later this year. I am one of the members of that committee working on this project. Our goal in updating the bylaws will be to strengthen what, as I hope you will see, is already a fairly progressively minded and democratic oriented document in order to make things a little clearer, to enhance checks and balances, and to further empower our membership. Part of what the document tells us is the purpose of the Washington Teachers Union. Some of the things that are included are that the WTU negotiates our contract, that part of their job is to protect our members' rights, that they also ensure and promote the conditions that we allow to effectively educate and service our students, that part of the job of the WTU is to inform employees of their political and social rights and responsibilities. So how does that actually look? So before we dive further into the document, I thought it would be helpful to just look at an example of the latest financial statement that I have seen, which is from May 2020. So, and this is also a part of the bylaws. In the bylaws, the membership dues are spelled out, and they are a percentage of the mean of our salary. Currently, in the month of May in 2020, the WTU collected $326,845 in membership dues. With that money, the bulk of it went to salaries and benefits of those who work for the Washington Teachers Union, which makes sense since these are people who can provide services to us. We have a series of subcontractors, which can include the people who work on the phones, a membership. Our communications person is currently a subcontractor. Our field representatives, 2 of them are staff members. Yeah. Our professional development instructors, who are often current WTU members, our president and general vice president salaries, then additional staff, our executive director, some of the temps that we hire, a professional development coordinator, the benefits that go to our staff members, and then as the secretary of the Washington Teachers Union, I get a stipend each month if I submit my minutes. And the elected treasurer also gets a stipend if they perform their jobs. And we also hire a parliamentarian to serve at our meetings. Other things that the WTU pays for is to be a member of the AFT. We are the part of the American Federation of Teachers. We are local number 6. And in order to maintain our status as voting members, we have to pay the AFT a monthly affiliation fee. And that is the fee is based on how many members we have. We get a lot of services in return and supports from the national, and we can call on them to provide us with trainings, additional staffing, campaign support, etc. We then also hire a legal firm, and our legal costs in the month of May were $53,467. Other expenses can include the building maintenance and upkeep, as well as paying our monthly mortgage, since we do own the building. We pay an accounting firm to do our finances. We spend money on membership activities. And we also pay to be a member of the Washington Metro Labor Council, AFL-CIO. So again, these are some of the things that we pay for in the month of May. I think it's important to note that as we look at decision making, a big part of the kind of decision making that we should be making as members and have power over is how this money is spent, how your dues are spent. So going back to the bylaws, what I want to show you is what the document demonstrates should be happening in the Washington Teachers Union. I'll be going from those with the most power to those with the least power when it comes to making decisions. In the Washington Teachers Union, the people with the most power are you, the membership. If we look at Article 5, Section 1 of the document, it says that the membership shall be the primary unit of organization. This can be exercised in several ways. One can be through a membership assembly, where people can be called together. According to the bylaws, there must be at least 2 membership assemblies per year. Historically, we have held them in September and June, but the bylaws do not specify that that is when they must happen. There could also be a call by the executive board or the representative assembly or the members themselves to request a referendum on any decision, which would then, of course, put it to a vote of the membership without necessarily requiring an in-person meeting. The representative assembly is then the next most powerful. It is made up of building representatives elected at each building, as well as delegates also elected at each building. According to the bylaws, they must meet a minimum of 8 times per year, October through May, minus December. And if we look at Article 6, Section 1 of the bylaws, it states that subject to the final authority of the membership, the general governing body of the Washington Teachers Union shall be the representative assembly. When hearing those words, the general governing body, this means that the primary place where decisions get made throughout the year is the representative assembly. It goes on to say, the representative assembly shall meet for the purpose of establishing the policies of the Washington Teachers Union, reviewing reports, taking appropriate action, reviewing financial reports, and taking other actions. You can get a more full reading of those sentences if you go to the bylaws document yourself on the WTU website. The executive board actually has the least amount of decision-making power of everyone in the Washington Teachers Union. This includes the president and the general vice president, and according to the bylaws, they need to meet monthly. According to the bylaws, Article 8, Section 1, the president shall administer executive policy of the union as determined by the membership and the executive board. Goes on further to say, in Article 8, Section 4, that the treasurer shall prepare and propose a budget for each fiscal year, which shall be approved by the representative assembly. So we say that to say that the groups that make the decisions are actually much closer to our members than it may appear in the daily operations of the Washington Teachers Union. You as a member are the most powerful person in this union, should you choose to exercise your power. And this can be over decision-making on what our union does, on the campaigns it takes on strategy, and on how we spend our money, your dues. The president would then execute what has been decided by the members. Of course, if you're not a member, you do not have this kind of power. So you do need to opt in, pay your dues, and be a member of the Washington Teachers Union if you want to be part of the decision-making process. So let's dive deeper into some of the rights you have as a member. And we do want to recall that every right you have then means you have a responsibility to exercise that right. And you should take that responsibility seriously. Of course, as mentioned before, your first responsibility, if you want rights as a W-2 member, are to be a W-2 member. And that means joining the Washington Teachers Union. And now you can do that through PeopleSoft. So it's easier than ever to be a full dues-paying member of the Washington Teachers Union. And you want to check your pay stub to make sure that you are paying dues, because if you are not paying dues, you are not a member of the Washington Teachers Union. If you would like to take on additional responsibility and really have a direct say in what's happening, you could run for W-2 office. This is going on in the month of September. So you should check in with your building rep or with your school and read the descriptions of the different positions that you can take and see if you can find a good fit. Even if you have not been elected to office, you have the right to attend meetings. You can be present, see what's going on for yourself. You can go to the membership meeting, of course, where you do have the right to vote. You could attend an executive board meeting where, while you can be present, you can't necessarily talk unless recognized by the chair, the president, which they don't have to recognize you. And you can't vote. You could go to the representative assembly, even if you're not a representative or a delegate. You could join the local school advisory team, the school chapter advisory committee, etc. And except when these groups go into executive session, which usually could only happen when dealing with personnel decisions and issues with personnel that are of a private and sensitive nature, you can be present. You also, of course, have the right to vote. You certainly have the right to vote in the elections, both at your building level and through the whole union. You can vote on committees, especially if you're a member. And if your school is hosting meetings with your whole membership, then you can vote at those meetings. So make sure you're doing your homework, staying an informed member, talking to each other, and keeping up with what's going on. And that brings us to the last one, staying informed. You are allowed as a member to ask for minutes from any meeting, minutes or notes. And again, unless it is executive session, you must be provided with that information. This includes financial reports, both from the school level and from the union. It could also be committee reports, election procedures, etc. So if you can't attend a meeting or you miss a meeting, and maybe the minutes didn't just automatically get sent out, which of course happens. I don't think it's nefarious, it just happens, we're all busy. You can ask for them. And you can't be told no. You remember, even if a meeting goes into executive session, there should still be minutes that are created that just don't include that certain part. An executive session, again, really is only for sensitive personnel matters that need to be handled in compliance with the law and in maintaining the privacy of those involved. So let's go into elections a little bit. It is election season after all. There are different things that you can vote for. The Washington Teachers Union Executive Board and Board of Trustees, and that includes the President and General Vice President. Their next election will be the 2021 to 2022 school year, towards the end. They serve for 3-year terms. Historically, in the Washington Teachers Union, we have voted by mail for those positions. Members can run as slates. This election is run by the Elections Committee, and you need 20 W-2 member signatures to get a nomination. And again, all this information is just coming from the bylaws. Every year, we have a building rep, delegates, school chapter advisory committee, local school advisory team, and personnel committee elections at your local schools. This year, they were postponed from what would usually be done in May to September. of 2020. You vote at your school. The elections are usually run by your current building rep, who either chooses or your group elects somebody to be the impartial counter. This year, they will be done electronically. Information has been set out by the WTU in the morning brew. It also should be on the website. According to the bylaws, each building must hold some form of a nominations meeting, and they need to provide 5 days notice before that meeting takes place. Then they must hold the election, in this case in the month of September. Again, 5 days notice must be given to the members. There are a few other positions that you could run for and need to vote on. One is the elections committee. As mentioned, when the executive board runs for office and the board of trustees runs for office, it is conducted by an elections committee who are elected in their own right. Their elections happen every 2 years, and it will have the next one for elections committee will happen at the end of school year 2020 to 2021. So this school year. The challenges that we've had as a union with the elections committee have been that it is a very hard work and it is hard to get a lot of people to run. But when it comes to transparency and guaranteeing a free and fair election, there really is nothing more important than an elections committee, just like we need poll workers to work the polls. But even more than poll workers, this is like our board of elections because they also decide the rules. They execute the rules enforcement for elections. And all of this, again, very important to maintain a free and fair election. Also, at the end of this school year, we will be electing delegates, the AFT and the AFL-CIO national conventions. AFT convention happens, I think, every 2 years. And you get to be a voting member because we do pay to be members of the AFT. Washington Metro Labor Council meets every month, and there you do get to, again, vote as a member of the AFL-CIO Metro Labor Council on important issues and interact with people from all sorts of different unions in the DMV. We do often don't have enough people to run to fill all the slots, and so we sometimes do have additional elections to fill those positions. Now, as a member at your school, like I've mentioned, you have the right to receive reports on the WTU and SCAC activities. And you can be present and see what's going on for yourself or ask for minutes and documents. Your school should be holding a monthly chapter meeting. So if that's not happening, you should email your building representative and ask for the meeting. This is a chance for you to tell your building rep what's going on so that they can hear your concerns, to decide maybe what you need to do collectively as a school to address those concerns with your admin at the monthly SCAC meetings with admin. And it's a chance to tell your building rep things that matter to you and what you think so that they know when they're going to the representative assembly how their people feel. You also have the right to be informed of the number of assembly members that your building has a right to. So each building gets represented, at least one building representative to vote at the delegate representative assembly. You get more the more members you have in your building. So if you have 45 members, you might get 2. If you have over 60 members, you might get 3. But you need to check with the WTU for the latest numbers and updates and to get the number of people at your building. Ideally, knowing this before the election will help your building elect the proper number of delegates. If you have 3 people who can serve in the representative assembly, you should have an election for the building rep plus a separate election for the 2 other delegates. So some of this will be repetitive, but I just want to go over it again because it's important. If you are elected to be either a delegate or the building rep of your school, then you have a lot of power, and therefore you need to know your rights. So first, you have to have a meeting every month, except for June, July, August, and December, where you get to be the general governing body. In order to be able to make a decision in a meeting, you must have a quorum. According to the bylaws, 25% of our chapters have to be represented with at least one vote in order to have a quorum. I believe that is 26 schools that need to be represented in order to conduct business. If you're a member and your building rep does not attend, you could ask them for written permission to serve as their designee, and you will count towards a quorum if they sign off on that. As I mentioned, votes are apportioned based on membership of the buildings. Reps and delegates may see, amend, and vote to approve the agenda following Robert's Rules of Order, which is also set as our governing procedures in the bylaws. Reps and delegates may see and vote to approve the minutes and financial statements. So any member has the right to see those documents once approved. Reps and delegates may introduce motions related to union policy. You don't have to wait for them to be introduced by members of the executive board or the president. You have the right to write your own motion if you want to see something happen. As a representative and delegate, you have the right to debate and vote on motions related to union policy. Members are also allowed to speak, but they cannot vote. As mentioned, in the Representative Assembly, we follow parliamentary procedures known as Robert's Rules of Order. The president presides over the meeting and only votes in the event of a tie. Motions are made, debated, amended, call the previous question to end debate, and voted upon. It is the majority rules. Oftentimes, a voice vote will be used, but a roll call vote can be called for. As stated before, the membership assembly, which typically happens in September and June, is considered the primary unit of the organization and therefore the highest authority. In Article 6, Section 9, it states that there shall be no less than 2 membership meetings per year, though additional meetings can be held as deemed necessary. To have a quorum, in order for the meeting to be able to conduct business, according to the bylaws, there must be 150 members present. They can conduct any business of the union as the membership sees fit, if there is a quorum. And like the Representative Assembly, meetings are run using Robert's rules, which include being able to approve the agenda, minutes, and financials, receiving reports from the president, executive board, and committees, introducing, voting on motions, following Robert's rules. Another important thing that you can do is have your voice heard by those who've been elected to represent you. I think you should treat your elected union leaders similarly as you would treat your district leaders. To me, that means email them with issues, questions, your opinions. And if you have an idea, you should share it. Speak up, be heard. You could write petitions, sign-on letters, make formal requests, You should demand transparency. And if nobody gets back to you, you should continue to follow up, possibly at the meetings themselves. We know people are busy. We want to assume best intentions, and we should. We're members of the union together. That being said, that doesn't mean we shouldn't hold each other accountable to be the best versions of ourselves and do the best job that we can. And we can't do that if we don't hear from our members and if our members don't speak up. And if elected leaders are not listening, it's important for other members to know that that's happening. And so we have to be dogged in our pursuit of holding each other accountable. If promises are made, promises should be kept. And if they can't be kept, then reasons should be given. And if you don't find those reasons acceptable, then you do what you have to do. There's a couple different ways that you can find this information. One, and probably the easiest at the moment, is to look people up on the website and use their DCPS emails. Hopefully they will give you their personal one, but currently the Washington Teachers Union website does not post the personal email addresses of our building reps, of our staff, or of our elected union leaders. You can also look up WTU staff and contact them. And you can also reach out to your colleagues at your school and find out who your school leaders are and get their personal emails and develop relationships with them so that you can stay in the know and that they can know anything that happens with you, because that's their job. That's often why they run to get elected, is they want to help make the building better. But if you don't talk to them, they might not know what's going on. Lastly, I just want to share a little bit about DC Core, the caucus of rank and file educators here in DC. If you have more interest, you can fill out a Google form, which will be at the YouTube website. You could also email us at dccoreunion@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at DCCore, or you can find our page on Facebook at DC Core Union. Our goal, again, is to empower our members. We're following after the likes of Chicago, who are the originators of CORE. We are joining the ranks of the Moore Caucus of New York, of Be More in Baltimore, of Union Power and UTLA, and many more groups that are teachers and educators just like us, who simply want to make our union the best it can be by learning our rights, exercising our democratic principles, and fighting for economic, social, and racial justice. We believe that unions are the power that can change society for the better, but that we have to exercise our collective voices in a unified way that empowers our membership to be the driving force. Caucuses allow us to exercise that democracy more effectively, because then we as members are just as organized as our leaders. We're not trying to be divisive. We're simply trying to make sure that our unions can be the best that they can possibly be, and that as members, we have the right to democratically organize and effectively use our voices, including inside our own institutions. So if you're interested in learning more, please reach out, and we look forward to hearing from you.